Picture two people sitting down on the first of every month, same city, same income, same bills. The first person opens a spreadsheet. They categorize every purchase from the previous 30 days. Groceries, $340, dining out, $280, entertainment, $95, gas, $120. They stare at the numbers, feel vaguely guilty about the dining out category, promise themselves they'll do better this month, and close the laptop. Next month, they open the same spreadsheet. The numbers are almost identical. The guilt is identical. The promise is identical. Nothing changes. The second person doesn't open a spreadsheet at all. On the first of the month, two things happen automatically. 100 moves to their investment account. $400 moves to their emergency fund. They don't look at categories. They don't calculate guilt. They don't make promises. The money is already gone before they spend a single dollar on anything else. They live on what remains. After 15 years, the first person has a detailed record of every dollar they ever spent. They could tell you exactly how much they spent on restaurants in March of 201. 9. They have virtually no savings. The second person couldn't tell you what they spent on groceries last Tuesday. They have $340,000 in investments. This isn't a story about discipline. It's a story about the fundamental misunderstanding that keeps millions of people financially stuck despite trying very hard to do the right thing. Budgeting feels like financial responsibility. For most people, it produces almost no results. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why that's true, what the data actually says about how wealth gets built, and the system that replaces budgeting entirely, the one that works whether you're disciplined or not, motivated or not, paying attention or not. Let me start with an uncomfortable truth. Budgeting, as most people practice it, is a system designed to manage poverty rather than build wealth. It is a tool for making sure you don't overdraft your account. It is not a tool for accumulating assets. These are fundamentally different goals, and conflating them is the reason most budgeters stay exactly where they are financially for decades. The entire architecture of traditional budgeting is backwards. You receive income, you spend, you track what you spent, you feel bad about some of it. You try to spend less next month. You fail or partially succeed. Your savings is whatever happens to be left over. Do you see the problem? Savings is the afterthought. Savings is the residual. Savings is what survives the month if spending doesn't consume everything first. And spending, being human and emotional and subject to marketing and social pressure and exhaustion, almost always finds a way to consume everything first. Research from the National Bureau of Economic Research confirms what most budgeters already sense but won't admit. Tracking spending does not reliably reduce spending. Awareness of spending patterns does not reliably change spending behavior. People who budget consistently do not, on average, save significantly more than people who don't. Act of categorizing past spending creates the feeling of financial control without the substance of it. This is a critical distinction. The feeling of control and the substance of control are not the same thing. Budgeters feel financially responsible because they know exactly how much they spent on dining out last month. But knowledge of the problem is not the same as solving the problem. You can know your house is on fire and still not put it out. The data on personal savings rates makes this concrete. In 2025, the US personal savings rate sat at approximately 3.6%. That number hasn't changed meaningfully in decades, despite the explosion of budgeting apps, personal finance content, financial literacy education. Millions of Americans now track their spending in beautiful color-coded dashboards. The savings rate remains near historic lows. The dashboards are very pretty. The retirement accounts are very empty. Something is deeply wrong with the approach. And it isn't that people aren't trying hard enough. Here is what's actually happening. Budgeting is a willpower-based system. It requires you to make correct financial decisions dozens of times per month, in real time, under conditions of stress, fatigue, social pressure, and emotional complexity. Every time you consider a purchase, budgeting asks you to mentally reference your category limits, calculate remaining balances, weigh short-term pleasure against long-term goals, choose correctly. Behavioral economists have studied this extensively. Willpower is a finite resource. It depletes throughout the day. By evening, after a full day of decisions at work, managing relationships, navigating stress, your capacity for financial restraint is dramatically lower than it was at 7 in the morning. The late night online shopping cart is not an accident. It is the predictable result of a depleted system making one more decision than it has capacity for. This is why budgeting fails specifically for high earners who are most surprised by the failure. A person managing a team, navigating complex professional decisions, and handling family responsibilities all day is running on cognitive fumes by the time they're on the couch. Asking them to exercise spending restraint at that moment is asking the most of them precisely when they have the least to give. Rob Baumeister's famous ego depletion research established that self-control functions like a muscle. Use it all day, and it fails when you need it most. A budgeting system that depends on consistent self-control will fail consistently at the exact moments that matter most. This isn't a character flaw, it's basic human psychology. And any financial system that ignores basic human psychology is a system built on a foundation of sand. The question then becomes obvious. What system doesn't depend on willpower? The answer is automation. Specifically, a principle called pay yourself first, which sounds simple enough that most people dismiss it without understanding what it actually means when implemented seriously. Pay yourself first doesn't mean transferring $50 to savings after you've paid your bills. That's what most people think it means. That's not what it means. Pay yourself first means treating saving and investing as fixed, non-negotiable expenses that come out of your income before you make a single discretionary decision. Your investment contributions are not optional. They do not happen if you have money left over. They happen automatically on payday before you see the money, before you calculate what you can afford, before any psychological ownership of that money is established. This works because of a phenomenon called mental accounting, identified by Nobel Prize-winning economist Richard Thaler. Humans do not treat all money as identical. Money we have already mentally spent feels different from money we haven't yet touched. Money that has never appeared in our checking account was never psychologically ours to begin with. It cannot be impulse spent. It cannot be justified as a treat. It never enters the spending category of our mental accounting system. When $1, $200 leaves your account on payday before you check your balance, your brain registers your available funds as whatever remains. Doesn't mourn the $1,200. It doesn't plan to recover it. It budgets around the number it sees. This is not a trick. It is an exploitation of how human cognition actually works, in your favor rather than against you. The research on automated saving is unambiguous. A landmark study published in the American Economic Review found that automatic enrollment in 401k plans increased participation rates from roughly 49% to 86% without changing anything about the financial incentives. Same match, same contribution options, same outcome potential. Simply making saving the default rather than the opt-in choice doubled participation. People didn't suddenly become more disciplined. The system changed, and behavior followed automatically. This is the difference between budgeting and automation. Budgeting tries to change human behavior through willpower and awareness. Automation changes the environment so that correct behavior happens without requiring human intervention at all. Let me walk you through the specific mechanics of a system that replaces budgeting entirely. The foundation is what I call the three-account architecture: a checking account for living expenses, an investment account for wealth building, a high-yield savings account for security. These three accounts have specific purposes and specific automation rules that make the whole system work without your ongoing attention. On payday, before anything else, an automatic transfer moves a predetermined percentage of your income to your investment account. Not a dollar amount, a percentage. The percentage-based approach is critical because it scales with your income automatically. If you get a raise, your investment contributions increase proportionally without any decision on your part. If income drops temporarily, contributions decrease proportionally without you needing to manually adjust. The system breathes with your income rather than requiring constant recalibration. What percentage? The research on retirement outcomes is clear about the minimum. A 15% savings rate, maintained consistently across a working career, provides a high probability of retirement security at a standard retirement age. Below 10%, the math becomes difficult regardless of how many years you work. Below 5%, the math becomes nearly impossible without extraordinary investment returns or a dramatically extended working life. The target isn't 15% as a ceiling. It's 15% as a floor. Many serious wealth builders work toward 20%, 25%, or 30% of income going directly to investments. Each percentage point increase compounds dramatically over time. The difference between a 15% and 20% savings rate, maintained for 30 years on a $90,000 income, is roughly $400 COZN in additional retirement wealth before investment returns are factored in. With returns, the difference exceeds $800,000. The second automatic transfer, smaller but equally non-negotiable, goes to your high-yield savings account. This is your security layer. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses held in a high-yield account generating meaningful interest is the buffer that prevents financial disruptions from becoming financial catastrophes. Without this buffer, unexpected expenses go on credit cards. Credit card balances accrue interest. Interest compounds against you rather than for you. One transmission failure becomes a debt spiral that takes years to unwind. Everything remaining after these two automated transfers is yours to spend however you choose. No categories, no tracking, no guilt. You already won. Everything left is truly discretionary. This is where people get skeptical. They say, what if I don't have enough left over after the transfers? This is the right question, and the answer reveals something important. If the automated transfers leave you genuinely unable to cover essential expenses like rent, utilities, food, and transportation, then you need to either reduce the transfer amount temporarily or address your income to fixed expense ratio. But for most people who feel they can't afford to save, the actual math tells a different story. Journal of Kunuma Research published research showing that when people are asked to estimate their essential expenses, they consistently overestimate by 20 to 30%. What feels essential often includes restaurants, streaming services, convenience purchases, habitual spending that has been mentally reclassified as necessity through repetition. Luxury repeated becomes baseline. Baseline feels essential. Essential feels impossible to cut. The pay yourself first system forces an honest reckoning with this. When the investment transfer happens automatically and you have to live on what remains, you discover which expenses are truly essential and which ones simply felt that way. The discomfort of the first month or two is informational. It is telling you where your money has been quietly disappearing. This discomfort is temporary. Research on habit formation and financial behavior consistently shows that people adapt to reduced discretionary spending within 3 to 4 months. The lifestyle that felt impossible to maintain on a lower spending level becomes normal. The restaurant that felt like a necessity becomes a genuine treat again. The subscription that was auto renewing for 2 years gets cancelled because it's no longer invisible. The budgeter tracks spending, hoping to change behavior. The automator changes the environment and lets behavior adapt naturally. The results are not comparable. Let me address the second major component that replaces budgeting. Not just automating savings, but automating the investment itself. Most people who do save money commit the second great financial error. They leave it in a savings account, earning minimal interest rather than investing it. A dollar saved but not invested earns approximately 4 to 5% in a high yield savings account right now. Respectable. But a dollar invested in a diversified index fund has returned an average of 7 to 10% annually over every significant historical period. Difference compounds into life-altering numbers over time. $500 per month saved at 4.5% for 30 years becomes approximately $380,000. $500 per month invested at 8% for 30 years becomes approximately $745,000. The same behavior, the same discipline, nearly double the outcome simply from where the money goes. Index funds, specifically diversified, low-cost funds that track the broad market rather than trying to beat it, are the instrument that wealth researchers consistently identify as the vehicle used by actual wealth accumulators. Not individual stocks, not complex strategies, not timing the market. Broad market index funds, bought consistently, held for decades, regardless of market conditions. Warren Buffett, arguably the greatest individual investor in history, has repeatedly stated that the correct strategy for most people is not active stock picking. It is buying and holding low-cost index funds over long periods, not because he couldn't do better, because he knows most people will do worse trying to replicate active strategies without his specific skills and information advantages. The automation principle applies here too. Set automatic contributions to go directly into index funds, not to a brokerage account where you might second-guess yourself about what to buy, into a target date fund or a simple 3-fund portfolio that requires no ongoing decisions. The fewer decisions your system requires, the more reliably it performs. There is a third component that separates people who understand this system from people who merely implement it: income expansion. Budgeting implicitly accepts your current income as fixed and tries to optimize behavior within that constraint. The automation system works at any income level, but its results compound dramatically with income growth. This creates an active incentive to grow income, not just control spending. Every raise, every income increase, every side income stream that feeds into an automated system with a fixed percentage contribution accelerates wealth building without requiring any behavioral change. The percentage stays the same. The absolute dollars increase. The investment grows faster. The timeline to financial freedom shortens. This is why the most financially successful people pursue both sides of the equation simultaneously. They reduce the percentage of income going to lifestyle, and they increase the total income this percentage applies to. The arithmetic of these two forces working together is staggering. Someone earning $70,000, saving 15%, is investing $10,500 per year. If they grow their income to $110,000 while maintaining the same savings rate, they are now investing $16,500 per year. No change in behavior, no increase in discipline. The income growth does the work. Over 25 years, the difference between those two paths, assuming 8% returns, exceeds $400. Zone in additional wealth. Budgeting has nothing to say about income growth. It is purely a spending optimization tool, and not a particularly effective one. A complete wealth building system operates on both the numerator and the denominator. Grow income. Protect the percentage. Let automation handle the rest. Let me give you the precise implementation steps. Because a system that cannot be started immediately is a system that won't be started at all. This week, log into your bank or employer's payroll system. Set up an automatic transfer of whatever percentage you can currently commit to, even if it's 5%, to leave your checking account on the same day your paycheck arrives. If your employer offers a 401k with any match, contribute at minimum whatever percentage captures the full employer match. That match is an immediate 50 to 100% return on your contribution, which no investment vehicle on earth can replicate. This month, open a brokerage account if you don't have one. Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab are all reputable and low cost. Set up automatic monthly contributions to a total market index fund or a target date retirement fund. Appropriate for your age. Set it. Do not monitor it daily. Do not adjust it based on market news. The value of automation is that it removes you from the loop. This quarter, audit your fixed expenses, not your discretionary spending, your fixed expenses. Subscriptions, insurance, loan payments, memberships. These are the expenses that silently consume income every month, regardless of your decisions. A one-time audit and elimination of unnecessary fixed costs can free up $200 to $500 monthly without requiring any ongoing willpower or discipline. Run the audit once. Capture the savings permanently. Automate those free dollars directly to investments this year. Define your savings rate target. Where do you want it to be in 12 months? Increase your automatic investment contribution by 1% every time your income increases. Make this a rule, not a decision. Every raise, every bonus, every side income gets split. A portion goes to investments automatically. The rest flows to spending. This prevents lifestyle inflation from consuming income growth before it can compound. Here is the part that nobody in personal finance wants to say clearly, because it sounds too simple to be worth saying. You do not need to understand your spending. You need to understand your saving. The most financially secure people you know are not the ones who tracked every dollar. They are the ones who consistently moved money out of reach before they could spend it, put it into assets that grow over time, and left it alone long enough for compounding to do its work. That's it. That is the entire mechanism. The details of where the remaining money went are largely irrelevant, provided the investment contributions happened first. Whether you spent $180 or $280 on restaurants last month matters almost nothing in the long arc of wealth building. Whether you invested $1, 100 or Z's last month matters enormously. Budgeting optimizes the irrelevant. Automation secures the essential. Picture yourself at 60 years old. You've never maintained a budget successfully for more than 3 months. You've never had perfect discipline around spending. You've never had a month where every category came in under target. But 20 years ago, you set up automatic transfers. Every payday, without your attention or willpower, money moved from your paycheck to your investment account. You forgot it was there. You lived your life. You occasionally got raises and increased the percentage. You never thought much about it. You open your brokerage account. The number you see does not require you to calculate whether you can retire. The number you see makes that question irrelevant. This is not a fantasy available only to high earners. It is the mathematical result of starting a system, maintaining a percentage, and leaving compounding alone long enough to work. The person who tracked spending for 20 years and saved whatever was left has a spreadsheet full of historical data and a retirement account that might not last a decade. The person who automated 15% for 20 years and never tracked a single category has wealth. They are not a better person. They are not more disciplined. They built a better system. Stop budgeting. Start automating. The difference between those two instructions is the difference between watching your financial life and building it. The spreadsheet is not the answer. It never was.